Hello, everyone. My guest today is Rob Prowine. He's the co-founder and CEO of a company called Kabbage. In 2008, he recognized that companies like eBay offered automated access to small business transaction data via APIs. But he realized a lot of small businesses could simply share this data to allow underwriters to make better, faster credit decisions and provide a great user experience. Because of that, he co-founded Kabbage to leverage the power of real-time data automation through technology. Rob, are you ready to take us to the top?
Let's do it.
All right, so I'm excited to have you on. You were on about a year and a half ago, and you shared with us then, at that point, you had raised about $500 million. You had lent about $4 billion to about 100,000 small businesses across I believe just the United States. Give us a quick update on those three numbers, then we'll dive more into the business.
So over the summer, last summer, we raised some money from SoftBank, obviously of fame of investing a fair amount of money in a bunch of businesses, a good group of folks who really invest behind vision in companies. We've grown considerably. We put out $1.5 billion last year. We're set to put up nearly $2.5 billion this year. So things have gone great. We're launched in a bunch of countries with a bunch of other. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold.
No, take your time, man. Yeah. So 1.5 in 2017, 2.5 billion lent this year.
Yeah, exactly. 2.5 this year. Really going to bring on about 45,000 new customers this year, small businesses in the U.S. We're also really focused on figuring out ways to provide more value to small businesses. So we launched a card and a full launch of a card. So now, and I'll pull it out of my pocket if I can find it easily here, a card that provides working capital on the go at the POS when folks stores, so small businesses there. We're launching bill pay, invoice advances. Really allowing, and our goal really here is to find the moments and times where small businesses really need to access capital and make sure we're there to be available to those small businesses as an option. The one thing I think we've really hit on here is the hardest thing for a small business, and pretty much everybody who's run a small business can appreciate that, is cash flow. And lending is one piece of that puzzle. So we want to make sure that we do it right for our customers.
So what are you at now today? Total money lent. Are you guys past the $5 billion mark now?
We are about to hit it. Wait, by the way.
Look at this.
Here's the Kabbage card.
I love it.
It can't be used anywhere. So
I was about to say, people are taking notes right now going, well, I'm going to try this thing at the next ATM.
There you go. Good luck. If you can make it work, go for it.
Yeah, you'll pay them as a bug finding fee, right? To cover that up. All right, good. So you'll pass $5 billion lent, I think, before the end of this year.
Well, actually, it happened in the next couple of months, I believe.
That's great. And what was the updated number on total small businesses that have used you?
So now we're closing in on about 150,000. So it's really become a sizable business here. But more importantly, I think we're really starting to impact a lot of small businesses. We've done studies that really show that the capital that we're putting out really produces a lot of jobs. About 20,000 jobs for every $1 billion that's put out, and that's really important because small businesses drive more than half of the non-farm GDP in the U.S.
Yep. Now, Rob, when you did the deal with SoftBank, which, by the way, that 250 was included in the 500 total raised, right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's
correct. Great. So 250 from SoftBank, you did an interview. You said you were expecting to do about 200 million in 2017 revenue, which was up from double, I think you said, in 2015. What's the growth rate look like in 2018? Do you break 300 million?
We do.
Oh, great.
So we will. It's and that's great. Revenue is a great measure of growth for sure, and we're excited about that. But it's only obviously one measure, and the number of businesses served, the number of loans we're putting out, the amount of capital we're putting out, and the impact that has downstream for the economy, all critical facts that we pay attention to.
Yep. Fill that puzzle piece out though for us real quick. I mean, how do you make money? Is it a cut on something? Where's that revenue come from?
Yeah. So we basically make interest on the loans that we offer to customers. So that's a primary revenue driver. We also license our technology to third parties that allows us to earn some licensing revenue as well.
You're talking to other banks?
To other banks, right. The deals that we have, for example, with ING, and we're launched with them in Spain, Italy, and France. We're launched with Santander as an example in the UK. So that drives revenue to the business. We're also getting into other types of transaction types where we obviously offer the card that provides some revenue through interchange, as an opportunity for us. So we're really sort of building out the suite of revenue that we're building in the company, and at the same time, obviously trying to do it in a way that creates value for the customers.
For a small business listening today that might want to go to Cabbage and use you, paint us as simply as you can. What is the true cost of capital working through you?
Yeah, so the true cost of capital for a small business, it really depends on the small business and the risk. So we have rates that are as low as 12%. And in fact, we're doing a deal right now, which we'll talk about in a few months, where small businesses will be able to access capital for as low as mid to upper single digits for certain types of purchases and things along those lines online. And so the true cost of capital can be anywhere from, like I said, below 10% in connection with that deal, and then run up into the, sort of mid, we average about a mid 30s APR. But the most important thing to focus on is, the use of capital. So what we really talk with our small businesses about is to leverage the capital for revenue generating purposes. So you're buying inventory to turn that inventory within a reasonable period of time. We're also now putting in place, we have a 18-month product that we're now going into full release in June. That capital will be lower cost capital that'll focus on longer term assets. And so as Cabbage grows and becomes, I think, more complex in terms of its ability to offer products and services, but obviously simple to the customer, we'll be able to offer longer duration products for lower prices that are utilized for capital investments and equipment purchases and the like.
And, as you think about kind of growing the business, where do you see, because you have many, many different lines of business, but when you look at like a traditional bank in terms of assets under management or outstanding loans, you still have so much room to grow. I mean, there's tons of growth, right? What is it, just getting that APR lower, which you'll see significant more growth from? And once you get below like a traditional bank, if you can get below a traditional bank, is that where you see explosive growth?
No, I think where it starts is, and I mentioned it earlier, that we've sort of, and I like, and one of the questions I know you ask in the top 5 is CEOs you study.
Yeah.
And somebody I paid a lot of attention to is Elon Musk. And Elon Musk, in one sentence, redefined Tesla. He said, Tesla's not a car company, it's an energy company. And I've really thought about that. And it makes you think about your company and what you're really doing and what you're really trying to create. And when I think about Cabbage, I think what we're trying to do is solve the cash flow issue for small businesses. And what I would ultimately like to do is cash flow as a service. And nobody's really ever talked about cash flow as a service, but we want to let the bakers bake. And that means if you're a amazing baker and you open up a bakery, you want to be focused 24/7 on creating amazing treats for your customers, right? What you don't want to do is the 8 hours you spend worrying about your cash flow a week. So as I think about how Cabbage hits that explosive growth, it's providing cash flow as a service to small businesses, which means we will be going into both deposit and payments over the next 9 to 12 months. And what that means is customers will not only be able to borrow money from us, but they'll be able to accept payments through Cabbage, deposit them in their accounts, apply those payments to their credit line in order to cut down the cost of the credit line, put it against bills ahead of time if they can save some money there, or even take cash surpluses and put it into an investment account and earn superior interest for it. So that's our goal. That's our vision, is to provide that service to small businesses.
Rob, true or false, that also gives you additional power to loan, assuming you have to keep some ratio of your loan, kind of loan capital in the bank. Is that without having to go raise additional VC?
Well, it's interesting because we're not a bank. And so we partner with banks. And so initially, we're not going to be able to leverage those deposits in our capital markets, but it is part of the plan over time to figure out how we might be able to take advantage of those deposits to some extent. And it probably wouldn't be in a bank format, but it might be in the form of being able to receive a lower cost facility from a bank who's able to benefit from the deposits that we direct their way.
Interesting. Tell me more about the tech side of it. So we focus on the finance side, but really, someone could argue your asset is you've identified probably thousands of signals that you can pay attention to that BB&T is going to ignore. And that's what allows you to get comfortable making a loan to someone that BB&T wouldn't make a loan to. So tell me about the tech. How is that constantly evolving?
So it's two things. It's one, being able to take that data in and understand the small business, as you said. The other piece of this is to be able to do it very, very, very quickly, right? Because it's not that small businesses need money fast. It's that those small business owners need to get back to what's really generating revenue for them, right? So focus on the things that are most important in their business. So what we do is allow a small business to connect all key data sources that relate to how they run their business. So it can be their banking account, it can be processing,
so
shipping,
QuickBooks, Chase credit card,
shipping, social, accounting, web analytics. What we want to do is we want to get two things. One is at the time of application, we want to get the best view possible of how that small business is operating so we can answer the key questions that banks ask small businesses, which is what's the capacity or the size or robustness or profitability of the business? What's the character of the small business owner? If they have the money in the account, are they going to pay? And three is what's the consistency or stability? Is that business going to be around for a legitimate period of time where we can offer capital and enter in that kind of relationship with them? The thing that banks have done is they've taken those three core questions and they've converted it into a series of documents that are required to answer those questions. All we've said is, by the way, it's not necessarily obvious that those documents are the best or only way to answer those same questions. We can answer it through data that we can get through these direct electronic connections. And that's really the technology. And by the way, when you solve a problem like that, you not only make it easier for the bank to grow and offer unique products to customers, but it makes the customers' lives easier. The best technology solutions actually solve multiple problems at the same time, which is what this particular solution does.
Yeah, the most powerful platforms are the ones that have the most up-to-date and the most numerous kind of inbound data channels, especially if the system learns quickly from those channels that you've built. It's really quite remarkable. Two last questions. One's related to blockchain, not the speculation side, the actual tech, and the second is related to kind of data as a war that we're seeing related to Cambridge Analytica and how it applies to banking and finance. Let's start with blockchain. Any opportunity for you to get into that space from not from speculative side, the actual tech?
So the way I think about blockchain, the answer is there's going to be a number of ways I think over time. The one that I am thinking a lot about right now is how we actually leverage it in the capital markets in order to. So there's lots of things that we try to solve for in the debt markets, right? If we're not a bank, so we don't have the deposit base that you referenced earlier. But what we need to have is immediacy of capital. When somebody comes and asks for money, we have it. We need permanence, which means that through cycles, we'll have that element. Diversity and flexibility, diverse set of funders and a diverse set of ways to fund, and then flexible capital so we can test new products and services. We've solved a lot of these issues, permanence being one that's a little bit more challenging. The way I think about blockchain and frankly, crypto, if you will, that sits on top of blockchain is a way to maybe either hedge against some of the permanence issues that exist in the capital markets for companies like Cabbage, or a way to so either a way to hedge it or a way to offload the permanence piece into a separate vehicle that can be tradable, independent of that debt facility. And without getting into a lot of details, I'm playing around with a lot of models again within the capital markets where crypto and blockchain can play a big role to solve all those key issues so we can continue to deliver capital to small businesses.
Russia and China have talked about trying to move parts of their trade off the US dollar so that we don't have as much leverage over their kind of national security. People are saying the stock market is high right now and there's a crash coming. If that happens, quantitative easing continues to go up. Do you ever worry about the value of the US dollar? Is it an actual threat to kind of what you're doing?
Look, I do worry to the extent that we, operate in foreign currencies at times. We do have currency risk that's associated with some of the things that we do. So it's not so much that I worry about the value of the U.S. dollar so much as I worry about volatility within the currency markets. And so we've looked at solutions to be able to hedge against currency risk as we receive funds in euros or pesos or Mexican dollars or yen or whatever it may be, so that we can manage that. But I do think a lot about currency right now. By the way, 5 years ago, I could never have imagined even answering that question.
Yeah, it's pretty it's pretty crazy when you start to think about it. And look, here's the last question, which also we probably wouldn't have been talking about 5 years ago. There are many people hooing and hawing about foreign entities making large investments in important tech companies in the U.S., right? So SoftBank has made a major investment in you. Do you feel like they have any leverage in terms of the data you're collecting, their ability to, use that data for something that you're not aware of?
No, they are strictly a shareholder in the company. It's not a relationship where we're sharing data or anything along those lines. I do worry about the data question and the Cambridge Analytica and the Facebook issues that we've been seeing recently, because I don't want it to create fear,
Yep.
Globally in sharing data, because there is so much good to come from sharing data. And by the way we access data is we actually ask you specifically for authorization to access your data for a specified purpose. And so it's a very, very different experience. But a lot of times when people are not willing to get into the weeds and they just, live in the world of fear, they'll throw, everything in and potentially, create a lot of damage in the process. And that would play into a lot of traditional companies' playbook, simply because they're trying to protect and preserve the profits they're making from holding on to data. And we want to make sure that concern is not going to somehow compromise the ability for people to access other products and services.
Rob, on that note, let's wrap up with the famous five. Number one, what's your favorite business book?
Well, you know what? I read again The Hard Thing About Hard Things, so I wouldn't doubt if that's been one that's been brought up on your podcast before. So
Ben's a smart guy; it's a good one.
There you go.
Number two, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
So I mentioned Musk earlier.
Yeah.
I always seek inspiration from Bezos and the things he thinks about, the long-term thinking that Bezos has in his business, and I try to incorporate that daily into what I do.
Number three, what's a tool that you use almost daily as you focus on growing Cabbage?
All right, so I'm gonna go with a repeat answer because it's so damn good. Followup.cc. If people are not using it, especially if you're as old as I am and you're trying to keep up with these 20-something-year-olds, if you're not using followup.cc, you're not going to survive.
No worries about like the new Google inbox or new inboxes where followup.cc might not work.
No, not a concern. It works out quite well for me personally.
What do you use? Do you use Google Inbox or traditional Gmail?
I use traditional Gmail, not Google Inbox.
That's great. Number four, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
I get 8 every 3 days total. So yeah,
three and a half.
Sleep's at a premium right now, and it's a combination of bad shoulders, stress, and traveling too much in too many different hotel rooms.
And what's your situation? Married, single? Do you have kiddos?
I'm married, 2 kids, both in college, both interning out in San Francisco this summer.
Oh, fun.
So pretty excited about that.
And how old are you, Rob?
I just turned 50 in March.
Congratulations. Any plans to go public?
Always plans, never sure when those plans, what the timeline is to put against it.
All right.
I definitely think that's the exit. It's going to be a couple of years at least, probably a couple of years for us.
Take us home. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
What I knew, or what I wish, the advice I would give is, make sure you call your mom more. I really mean that, right? So as I get older, my kids are now, in college and, have had this crazy life for the last 10 years. The importance of that family dynamic has never been so strong for me.
Did you lose your mom?
I lost my mom 2 years ago, actually. Yes.
Guys, there you have it. Call your mom more from Rob. Had a big vision back many years ago to say, you know what, we should be able to get loans out to small businesses, allow them to create jobs, eventually create this, animal that is cash flow as a service to allow the baker focus on what he or she loves, which is baking. They're scaling very nicely. 2017 did $200 million in revenue, 1.5 billion lent in that year alone. This year, in the next few months, they'll pass 5 billion total lent to over 150,000 small businesses, scaling over 300 million bucks in revenue, looking at many different products, again, to make that vision of cash flow as a service come true. Interested in blockchain and crypto that sits on top of it, but nothing particularly as important right now as him managing volatility in capital markets, both domestically and across the world. So, Rob, thank you so much for taking us to the top.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the day.